package for would-be drivers, pulling off a clever doublespeak. On the one hand, it promises drivers freedom, flexibility, and independence. It tells them that they are entrepreneurs who can be your own boss. For legal purposes, Uber classifies them as independent contractors, meaning they are largely excluded from the employment and labor law protections to which employees are entitled. Yet, on the other hand, Uber leverages significant control over how drivers behave on the job. Rather than supervising its hundreds of thousands of drivers with human supervisors, the company has built a ride-hail platform on a system of algorithms that serves as a virtual, automated manager. Freed from the necessity of layers of real bosses, algorithms manage drivers directly according to the rules that Uber lays out. But it's not as glamorous as it might sound at first. As entrepreneurs, drivers theoretically set their own hours, accept or decline passengers freely, set their pay rates, and build client lists. Some of that is true for Uber drivers. Drivers benefit from flexible hours, but Uber's promotional offers can effectively create shift work for drivers who need the money. The company may deactivate drivers who try to build their own client lists, and many drivers with whom I broach this subject say they don't even bother trying because they feel safer knowing they are covered by Uber's insurance policy, which offers $1 million in auto liability insurance per accident if one occurs between the time a driver accepts a trip and the trip's completion. They are penalized if they decline passengers, but Uber doesn't actually give them the information they need to assess whether a ride is profitable in advance. And Uber perennially and unilaterally changes their pay rates, usually by cutting them. Drivers are supposedly free and independent, but Uber's rules, enforced by these algorithmic managers, significantly limit the opportunities for entrepreneurial decision-making available to them. Drivers have noticed the tension between the promise of freedom and the reality of invasive algorithmic management. In fact, this tension is the basis of legal claims that drivers should not be classified as independent contractors. One of the fascinating aspects of Uber's approach is that according to the company, its drivers are not workers at all. They are consumers of Uber's technology services, just as passengers are. In 2013, a group of drivers and lawyers filed a class-action misclassification lawsuit, alleging that Uber was not justified in classifying drivers as independent contractors. They argued that Uber treats drivers like employees. In a January 2015 court hearing of the case, Uber's lawyers explained that the company's drivers are actually customers of its software. Fundamentally, the commercial relationship between these drivers and transportation providers and Uber is one where they are our customer, where we license to them our software, and we receive a fee for doing that. If we follow this logic to its natural conclusion, the company doesn't have any worker problems, despite mounting lawsuits, protests, and conflicts with drivers across the country. This is a book about how Uber created a fundamental cultural shift in what it means to be employed. It is also a book about technology ideology, the stories Uber tells us about users, and the stories we tell each other about the role of technology in our lives. It's a tale of how a small startup in Silicon Valley put algorithms in charge of managing hundreds of thousands of people in the United States and Canada. By 2018, Uber employed 3 million active drivers globally. This book traces the story of how the company crafted a narrative that defined workers first as working-class entrepreneurs, then as customers, because redefining traditional categories was a clever way of pursuing its own growth. Uberland also exposes how Uber has utilized self-serving arguments to advance its own interests. For example, Uber self-identifies as a technology company, not a transportation company. As federal judge Edward M. Chen articulated in the same lawsuit where Uber argued that drivers are actually customers, this technology exceptionalism reasoning is fatally flawed. Uber may use software for the mechanics of its business, but it is substantively in the business of arranging transportation. Judge Chen writes, Uber does not sell software, it sells rides. Uber is no more a technology company than Yellow Cab